Hello and welcome into today's campaign conversation ahead of Cannes. I'm Jameson Fleming, the editorial director at Campaign and MM&M. And joining me here today is Gina Cavallo, the CRO of Xpln. Welcome in.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm excited to have this conversation because we're talking all things attention, and attention is the new currency. How much attention does an ad really need? And so you're an expert on this topic, but before we dive into this topic, let's just talk about Xpln and explain what you're all about.
So Xpln is an attention measurement and optimization technology platform based in Paris and now here in the US, where I'm helping to build out the team and the business.
Yeah, so you've been with the business for about 6 months. Yep. You have a long background in marketing and tech and previously in the attention biz before this. Mm-hmm. So talk to me about the pivot that you've had in these last 6 months. What are the challenges in this new leadership role that you've taken on?
I wouldn't say it's so much as pivot. It's really about just getting back to basics, right? We're a smaller team. I'm in there blocking and tackling with my team. It's very... You're doing a million different jobs, wearing different hats, and so not coming from a much bigger company that we sold to a much even bigger company. Now I'm back in the startup space, and so you're pivoting back down to those basics, and it feels like there's less hierarchy, which I really enjoy. We're all sitting at one giant table, and I'm talking to my VP about. Hey, can you cover that call? And Fabienne's asking me my opinion on this email, and so it's super collaborative. So maybe not a huge pivot, but just sort of a step back into my earlier, the earlier days of Autogen or the earlier days of Playground, where I've built other businesses.
Yeah, and what's beautiful about a startup is you get to start a culture.
Yes.
And often you look at the CRO and it's the general thing is, oh, they're just here to hit numbers, but you want to build a culture. So how do you build a culture that's more than just hitting numbers as a CRO?
Yeah, of course. I mean, look, so building great culture is more than that, more than great snacks or great perks for the company. Building great culture is understanding what people need, what those individuals require. Everyone's different, especially when you're running a sales organization, and motivating them is individual. They're like snowflakes in a way. And that is being the leader, you have to care about those individuals and what motivates them. And, it could be something as simple as, hey, I am a parent and I need to go pick my kid up at 3:00, and that makes me really happy because I need to be at their soccer game. And that's me saying, that's great, go do what you got to do, right? Like being able to understand each person's motivation or their priorities is important. And that's, I think, builds a culture where people want to come and they want to work hard because they know you respect who they are individually. And even when I hire people, I am maniacal. I drive probably if you interviewed any other of the talent recruiters in the industry, they'll tell you I drive them crazy because I want my unicorns. I want people who hustle. When you're in a startup, you got to hustle. You got to work really hard. I want people that are, that have great relationships and are well respected. But I also want people that are good people. I want people that are kind, and they're kind internally and cross-functionally. So I think culture starts with obviously being, caring about your people on an individual level. But I think it also is the people you hire and striking that balance between hustle and hard work and being a good human. And that builds a great place where people want to come to work every day.
No, I love that take. As someone who tries to get out of this office to go coach my kids' Little League team, right. I deeply appreciate that mentality. When it comes to the actual business here, this industry has been measuring performance on clicks, impressions, viewability for years. So with attention, what can attention do in measuring attention that those metrics cannot do?
Well, I think people forget, while viewability is important to be obviously viewable and be on the screen, that doesn't mean that someone actually looked at your ad. And all the work you're doing, from planning a campaign to setting it live, right? The thing that's in the middle, like the middle of the Oreo, for so to speak, is attention. You have to get someone to pay attention, to look at your ad, to then take an action. So if it's purchasing something online, even just clicking or picking up that bottle of soda on the shelf, you have had to have gotten their attention at some point to get them to make that action. So attention is incredibly important. I think it's just I think right now what we're trying to What we're trying to demonstrate is, how do you harness that power into better, into measuring and optimizing your campaigns and really using it to drive performance.
Yeah, and I think one of the interesting things in this industry is you can have the best creative in the world, and it may not be paired with the right media buy, but also, we live in a world where you've got 2 seconds to catch somebody's attention on TikTok before they swipe up.
Right.
And so creatives are trying to front load that creative. It doesn't always work. And so walk me through this idea of, you may have 5 seconds to land creative, or maybe only 2 seconds, but it's not working. And so how does Xpln, demonstrate to a creative, to an agency, to a brand, how to make sure that they're capturing somebody's attention as quickly as possible?
Absolutely. I think it's because I know it's because there's never been a signal that connects both media and creative. I mean, even you think about where do creatives sometimes typically sit, there could be a completely different agency, right? So creatives and media folks have been siloed for decades. And so it's no surprise that those things have been separate. And you're right, like creative and media, actually, to get the best out of them, they have to actually be looked at together. So what Xpln does is we actually have a signal that can connect those two things. And so we have a product called Ideal Attention Time. And what Ideal Attention Time does is tells you how much attention does that creative asset require in seconds, because we all understand, seconds. How many seconds does it need to understand what the brand is, what the specific product is, and then what the call to action is. And all those different thresholds need to meet up with or be matched to the media you're buying. So if you have a creative asset you've produced, maybe it's TikTok, and it requires 4 seconds, but you only bought 2, and this is just an example, well, then you didn't give the creative enough time to actually do its job. And so it's a complete mismatch.
Yeah. And when you look at what attention brings, is it more education that has to happen on the media side or the creative side? Is it the media buyer or the creator who needs to understand what Xpln is bringing to the table and measuring?
I think it's more on the media side, because obviously creative is much different, and there's different narratives and stories, right? Some creatives, they take you on a journey, and it takes you maybe 15, 20 seconds to understand. We have a great example of work we do with Levi's, where it's a Beyonce Levi's ad, and you don't realize that, she's walking through a laundromat. I didn't even realize it was a Levi's ad until about 12 seconds in, because I didn't see that red tag. I thought it was actually a Cowboy Carter, promo, and I love Beyonce, so I was like all leaned in, but I would have missed the brand's message had I not watched that full 12 seconds. So I think it's really important. It shouldn't dictate great creative and great content, but the media plan needs to be adapted to make sure that we actually give it enough time.
Yeah, when it comes to the future of measuring attention, what are some of the areas that you're looking towards innovating to continue bringing media agencies, creatives, the right information that they need to make, actionable decisions?
So not just the measurement optimization, which has been our core products, launching Ideal Attention Time, which is a newer product that we're bringing to market, which has gotten a ton of buzz and a lot of attention, so to speak, because no one's, to your point earlier, talks so much about creative when you think about media. Another thing that we're looking into is how do you apply attention over your programmatic buying so that you're taking out wastage, or you're putting sort of a jetpack on top of your programmatic buying. So there's all things that we're working on to take that power of attention and help sort of propel your performance along every single part of the media campaign, from activation to optimization to then measurement.
All right, we've got about 2 minutes left here in the conversation. So I've got one spicy question, but one more quick question about attention. As you've been out there talking to clients and talking to media buyers, what's something that you're constantly, maybe a myth that you're having to constantly dispel about measuring attention?
One of the things I'm having to dispel is that it's not an important metric, right? That it doesn't contribute to brand building. It does. To my earlier point, right? You have to get someone's attention to get them to take an action. A lot of the times we're looking at just CPA, or did we buy enough enough reach or frequency, and I think we're not looking at attention as a proxy to brand building. So part of the job is not just hitting the numbers, it's also educating, our partners on why this is valuable and why investing in attention is going to help, the entire funnel.
All right, and let's end the conversation with what's your spicy hot take right now on the marketing industry?
Oh boy, there's so much movement. I think you can't go on LinkedIn and you're like, what is happening here? People are changing jobs and moving around. And I think my one hot take is people don't leave bad companies, they leave bad leaders.
Amen to that.
Yeah, that's my hot take.
I love that. I fully 100% sign off on that.
I love that.
Love it. All right, for today's Can Conversation, this was Gina Cavallo. I'm Jameson Fleming, the editorial director here at Campaign and MM&M. Thank you for joining us here today.